Okay, so here you go. Today's last conic section that you want to talk about is, oh, by the way, what shape does this make? X squared over 16 plus y squared over 9 is equal to 1. What shape does that make? Nope. Makes an ellipse. How far is it stretched in the x direction? 4. How about the y direction? 3. Now, watch this, folks. Suppose I write x squared plus y squared is equal to 25. What shape does that make? Circle. What's the radius? 5. Because we covered it. So that was from first semester and then ACT review. That's how they're referencing it. Okay. So if you divide by 25, watch what you get. Now, does this look like the formula for a circle or an ellipse? It does. But look at this. How far is it stretched in the x direction? 5 in the y direction? So you see how circles are really the form of an ellipse, aren't they? It's just that they're stretched the same amount in each direction. So that's something that can connect that piece together for you. Now, today's conic section that you want to learn about, so we learned about circles. If you slice it, you get a circle like that. If you slice it like this, you get an oval. If you slice it like this, you get a parabola that comes on out. But if you slice it like this, you get a different shape. Okay, and what happens is right here, you get that kind of shape. And up here, you get that kind of shape. And it's called a hyperbola. And we've actually graphed hyperbolas before. You just didn't know that you were doing it. So, definition of a hyperbola, the set of all points. Whose distances from two foci. No, we're not going to do that. Set of all points whose distances from two foci have a constant difference. So what was yesterday's? Have a constant sum. Today is a constant difference, and that creates a hyperbola. So the equation is going to look very familiar to you. X minus h, quantity squared, over a squared. Y minus k, quantity squared over b squared, equal to 1. The difference is we have subtraction. Identical to an ellipse, except we have subtraction. What do you think about that? Good? Okay, so that's for a horizontal one. For a vertical one, you get y minus k, quantity squared, over a squared, plus x minus h, quantity squared, over b squared. Whoop, I'm sorry, I wrote plus there. Sorry about that. So can somebody tell me what changed in that scenario? Yeah, the k and the y are all of a sudden up front, aren't they? So if x is positive, it's horizontal. So if x is positive and y is negative, it's horizontal. If y is positive and x is negative, then it's vertical. So you got to look for which one's positive. Get my point? You're looking at me like I'm crazy. Positive, subtraction sign means negative. Positive, subtraction sign means negative. Okay. So let's look at the graph of a hyperbola. Hyperbolas look something like that. Whoa. They're fish. Yeah, we're sampling the population of fish in a lake in statistics. It's kind of fun. Sound like some crunch. Oh well. Fish die. Can't believe you're on the video today. It's nervous, nerve-wracking, isn't it? What? We can say, hi, Caitlin.
How do they hear you?
They hear me because I have a microphone.
Oh. Okay, put that part on.
I'll do that. Okay, here we go. So we have a center, HK. So the center is HK. And then what we do is, I haven't done a very good job of drawing this. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger just so no, you do whatever you want. So here's what we do is this distance right here is exactly A units. And that distance there is A units as well. Everybody okay with that? And so that gives us our vertices for the hyperbola. So the vertices are located at H plus or minus A and then K. So we add A onto H and we subtract A from H. The length of the transverse axis. The transverse axis is the segment that joins the two vertices. Can somebody tell me what that length is? 2A. Now, there's what I call kind of this imaginary box. I call it a ghost box. That's what kind of makes this next structure. It has what we call asymptotes. We've talked about asymptotes before, right? These imaginary lines that are horizontal or vertical, these ones are sideways. And here's kind of how I make the ghost box. I go like this. Yep. And it turns out that this ghost box, it's like, how high do I go up? Obviously, we go A units to the side, right? We go B units up, yep. So that distance is B right there. All those segments have a length of B. And as you look at this, then what we do is we draw our asymptotes. They go through this box, and that's kind of what the graph uses to determine its shape. The hyperbola kind of approaches those lines as it heads on out. Now, asymptotes are a line. What two things do you need to write an equation for a line? Slope and a point. So, can somebody tell me the coordinate that these asymptotes both go through? 0, 0 if the center is 0, 0. What if the center is not 0, 0? Then they go through HK. So the point is HK. Now, let's look at the slope of these lines. What's the rise of these lines? B. What's the run? A. Now, one's positive and one's negative, right? So therefore, the slope is plus or minus B over A. And everybody remembers how to write an equation for a line, right? Y minus Y1 equals M times X minus X1. So I'm going to write Y minus my Y1 value is K. And that's equal to plus or minus B over A times X minus H. And that's the equation for my asymptotes. All right, now I want to find the foci. Foci are C units from the center. So I'm going to have they're like a foci point there and a foci point here. And they sit exactly C units from the center. So now you want to know what? How do you find C? C is A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Does that look familiar?
Yeah.
Yep. So as you can see, it's at C units from the center. The foci are located at H plus or minus C and then K. True or false? You have a work day tomorrow. Yeah, so we want to get through this, and then tomorrow you have time to work on these 3 assignments. Okay, so let's try one example. This is a horizontal hyperbola, and we'll see what's going on. So I got center. I got vertices. I've got length of transverse axis. I've got foci. And I've got asymptotes. So I've got those 5 things. Ready to produce? All right. Is this horizontal or vertical? Okay. It does not matter where the big number is. Remember, for ellipses, we looked at where the big number is. Doesn't matter for hyperbolas. What matters is what is positive. Because the x is positive, it's going to open horizontally, not vertically. Okay? So this can be horizontal. Can somebody tell me the center? 0, 0. So I'm going to make a graph. I'm going to plot the center. There we go. Now, what I do to make my hyperbolas is I make the ghost box right away. How many units do I go in the x direction from my ghost box? 2. Tim, how many units do I go in the y direction for the ghost box? Is anybody confused about how to make that box? Once you can make that box, the rest of it is easy. Here's all we have to do. Okay? We draw our asymptotes. They are lines that go diagonally through the corners of the boxes. You told me, is this horizontal or is it vertical?
Horizontal.
It's horizontal. So my vertices go on the sides, not on the top and bottom. They go on the sides. Can somebody tell me the location of those vertices? So plus or minus 2, 0. You can combine it to 1 if you want there. I'm going to draw my hyperbolas, okay? So they start at this vertice, and they kind of follow along that line. So this is a very wide-shaped hyperbola. Okay? Just kind of barely curves in. The length of the transverse axis is the distance between the 2 vertices. What's the distance between 2 vertices? It is 4. Now I just need the foci and the asymptotes. The foci are located C units from the center. How do I find C? Yeah, if you take a squared plus b squared, what do you get? Square root of 29 is equal to C. So somebody approximate the root of 29 for me. 4. So 2 units that way and 2 units that way. So we're going about 5.5. 5.42. So I go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going 5.4 units in each direction. So this is where the foci are, right there. Now, you don't need the foci in order to draw the graph, but they are points that are used to determine the shape of the graph. Okay? So the foci are located the root of 29 from the center. So I've got plus or minus root of 29. and 0. I took a squared plus b squared. Got 29, take square root. Okay, now I just need the asymptote. In order to do the asymptotes, what two things do you have to have? What is the point that they both pass through? So my point is 0, 0, and what is the slope? What is the rise over the run? 2 over 5. No. Plus or minus 5 over 2. So we have y minus 0 equals plus or minus 5 halves times x minus 0. Because I have the zeros there, I could just write it as y equals plus or minus 5 halves x. That's that. Re-explain the whole thing of what I just said. The asymptote. The asymptote passes through a point 0, 0. Are you good with that? Do you see how we have the slope of 5 halves? So asymptote is a line, and a line is of this form. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Does that look familiar to you? Equation for a line? So we take 0, 0, and we put this 0 value in for y, this 0 value in for x, and the slope goes there. So y minus 0 is equal to plus or minus 5 halves, which is the slope, times x minus 0. Well, as those are 0, I just have y is equal to plus or minus 5 halves times x. Are we better? And yes. Yep. You got it. You got it. All right, let's try next one. What's different about this next one? Yeah, it's vertical, okay? So, if you have a vertical hyperbola, it's because the y comes first. It's positive, whereas the x is negative. You see that? Okay? So as we make our box, anybody want to guess how many units I go in the y direction? I go a units in the y direction. Anybody want to guess how many units I go in the x direction? I go b units in the x direction. Okay, so it's b over and it's a up. You can tell that because the a square is under y and the b square is under x. Got that? So the vertices are going to be located, obviously the center is still hk, but now we move vertically, so it's going to change the k value. So it's h and then k plus or minus a. So you move a units from the center. The length of the transverse axis, that's the distance from the vertices. What is the distance between those two vertices? 2a. In this situation, a corresponds with the y. It's sitting under y. Do you see that? Okay, so there I am. I've got my asymptotes. I draw my asymptotes. The asymptotes still travel through the center, hk, correct? What's the slope this time? The rise is a and the run is b. So we have y minus k is equal to plus or minus a over b times x minus h. And the foci, they do sit c units from the center. They sit on the inside of the hyperbola. So we just have to go h and then k plus or minus c. Which part? The foci. So the foci sit C units from the center, just like the last one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move C units up. So that's going to change the K value. I'm going to move C units down. That's going to change the K value. The H value stays the same. H is your X location. So I don't know what's best for you guys in terms of putting your notes together for the test. You guys have to sort out where your learning is at and what helps you kind of make sense of some of these. There's multiple ways of coming up with these types of equations. This is just one way that I've seen some of the books do it, and what I've kind of adapted to over time as well. So, this one, is it in the proper form? So what should I do? I'll divide by 36. And when I do, I get x squared over 9 minus y squared over 4 is equal to 1. Talk to your peer for 20 seconds. Is this horizontal or vertical on y? Go. Five, four, three, two, one. Horizontal or vertical? Y. Yeah, the x is positive, the y is negative. Usually everybody says it's going to be vertical because we just did a horizontal one. But I want you to look and understand that x is positive, so therefore it's horizontal. So what's the center? 0, 0. I'm going to make my ghost box. How many units do I go in the x direction? 3. How many units do I go in the y direction? So from the center, I went 2 units down and up, and I went 3 units right and left, and now I've got this ghost box. And I can draw the asymptotes through it right now. And that's the structure I need in order to make my graph. Do the vertices go on the top and bottom of the box or on the sides of the box? They go on the sides of the box because we said it opens horizontally. And so you can see that this is a much sharper shaped hyperbola compared to the last one. So we have it drawn. What are the vertices? Plus minus 3 is 0. You see how I draw the graph and then I name stuff? I don't try to name everything and then draw it. I think that that's backwards. Length of the transverse axis is the distance between the two. It is 6 units. In order to get the asymptotes, you need, try to come up with the. Okay, for the asymptote, it goes through 0, 0, so it should just be y is equal to plus or minus. I've got a rise of 2, I've got a run of 3, and x. Y equals positive or negative 2/3 x. The foci, I do a squared plus b squared. So 9 plus 4 is 13, so square root of 13. So you should have plus or minus the root of 13 and 0. How much is the root of 13? Yeah, so I just have to go just a little bit further. So you can see that these focus points are located pretty tightly, pretty closely to the opening. So I don't even look at the A over B. I just look at my shape. Look at your box. What did you rise? I did a rise of 2. I did a run of 3. Yeah. So when I do the problem, I don't look at A, B, H, K, all that stuff. I look at my drawing. I always know I can come up with the drawing, and from there I can figure everything else out. Let's try one that's shifted. Which one do you want to do? Letter A or letter B? We're only going to do one. You sure? Okay. We'll do B because B is vertical. Yep. All right. Raise your hand if you're a B person. You beat them. All right. Way to go. Raise your hand if you're an A person. Boo. See how it's fun? Okay. What's that? I asked you to raise your hand. Let's divide by 36. That sounds fun. So I have y plus 2 quantity squared over 36 plus x minus 1 squared over what? 4 is equal to 1. So I'm going to make my graph over here. We're going to use this space because I'm sure you guys are going to be able to do this. All right. I'm going to need the center. Good. The 1 goes with the x. The -2 goes with the y. Good job. Who did that? Way to go. Way to go, stat. All right. So now, as I try to make my, my ghost box, I want to look here. How many units am I going to stretch in the y direction? So if I got to stretch 6 from 2, that means I got to go at least 8 by 8, right? So I'm actually going to make a 12 by 12 graph. I'm going to go by 2s here. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. That's how I'm doing this. You do whatever you want. If everybody could count out loud, that would be great. That's how I teach my kids to multiply when they're growing up. I teach them to count by 2s. I teach them to count by 5s. Like, if you know how to count by 2s and 5s, you know how to multiply by 2s and 5s, right? We're not counting by 3s and they know how to multiply by 3s. That's how you teach how to do multiplication. You just teach them how to count. Okay, center. We got 1, -2. Over 1 and down 2. All right, that's my center. You tell me what to do next. Make my box. So how many units do I go in the y direction? 6. So I got 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6. Then how many units do I go in the x direction? Yeah, 2. So that's just 1 tick mark, isn't it? I make my ghost box. So we got center, I got vertices, I got length of transverse axis, I got foci, I got asymptotes. So I've got my box. I like to draw my asymptotes then. What's it going to be, Aaliyah? Jordan, I feel like she doesn't always finish her sentences. Okay. Should I put my vertices on the top of the ghost box or on the sides of the ghost box? Why? Because it's vertical, because the x is negative and the y is positive. Very good. All right, so I can now draw my shape. Looks like it's a little bit more narrow. So what are the locations of the vertices? Looks like it's over 1, up 4. over 1 and up 4. Huh? Yeah. So it looks like it's over 1 and up 2, 4. And then I'm over 1 and I'm down 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm over 1 and I'm down 8. Down 8. I feel like I did that right. Did I not? The ink didn't work. There we go. All right, length of transverse axis. That's the distance between these two things. 12. Now I need the foci. The foci are going to be C units from the center. How do I determine the C? What's A squared plus B squared? 40. What's the square root of 40? C is 2 roots of 10, and everybody knows 2 roots of 10 is approximately 6.2. So I'm going to move 6.2 units, 2, 4, 6, and 0.2. 2, 4, 6, and 0.2. So this is pretty important because this is the part that people make the mistake on. So I'm going to list my foci. Did that change the x value of the center or the y value of the center? The y value. So the x value stays the same, which is positive 1. And then from the center, what's the y value of the center? So from negative 2, I added and subtracted 2 roots of 10. Yep. So we're over 1 unit because of this. And notice that over 1 unit, that's where the center is, that's where the foci are, that's where the vertices are. Everything is over 1 unit. So from negative 2, we went 6 units up to get to 4. And from negative 2, we went 6 units down to get to negative 8. Twice the 6 was 12. But for the foci, we moved 2 roots of 10, which is 6.1. From negative 2, we added 6.1, and from negative 2, we subtracted 6.1. Our last one, asymptotes. What 2 things do we need for asymptotes? What is our point? 1, negative 2. What is your slope? 6 over 2. What's 6 over 2? 3. So the slope is plus or minus 3. So therefore, my equation is y plus 2 is equal to plus or minus 3 times x minus 1. Leave it. So it's a rise of 6. It's a run of 2. 6 over 2 is 3. Yes. So my center is 1, negative 2. So over 1, down 2, right? So then my y value for my box is 6. So I go up 6. So from negative 2, if you go up 6, you get to 4. If you go down 6, you get to negative 8. Please take out your worksheet. Parabolas. ellipses, hyperbolas. So, as you look at your homework assignment, you can tell that I have accidentally put the wrong information in here. So notice how A and B say center, vertices, transverse axis, foci, asymptotes. Those are the characteristics of our hyperbolas, correct? But eccentricity and minor axis, that's for ellipses. So if you could just kind of make that adjustment, just kind of cross and put whatever you should there, I'd appreciate that. So, everybody get my point? Okay, so A and B are asking for the right information, like C and D, and I don't know about the other side. Yeah, other side has the same problem.
Are you still doing your little recording?
I'm still doing the recording. Ava, would you like to say something in the recording?
Yeah.
Who would you like to talk to?
Myself when I go back and watch the video because I'm confused.
Okay. What message would you like to say to yourself?
Hi, Ava. Don't go to sleep because I know you're tired. Keep trying to figure out how to do the math. Bye.
You need to leave a message for me too.
Maybe you should remind yourself how it's recording your voice. How is this recording your voice?
By a microphone.
Very good. That way you won't forget ever.